DavidIcke.com is his website. We're very honored to have him on with us today. I'm going to try to give him the floor now and let him break down all the questions I've thrown out about what is this next level the elite are moving into. In the football game analogy, we are seeing a big awakening, but where does he expect all this to go, David Icke?
Well, it's been a progression, clearly, along a road going way back. You know, people like George Orwell and Aldous Huxley with 1984 and Brave New World, they weren't coming from their imagination entirely, or even much of it. They were coming from a point of view of having access to the projected agenda.
And they both said that. They both said that in public white papers. Yeah.
And, you know, in my last couple of books, I quoted a man called Dr. Richard Day, who was a Rockefeller insider. He was an executive of Planned Parenthood. And in 1969, he was addressing a meeting of pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And for some reason, only he knows, he asked people to not take notes and not record anything because he was going to tell them how the world was going to change. And what he then did was tell them what was coming and why. And one of the pediatricians did take notes and later did some interviews before he died explaining what this Richard Day said. And what Richard Day described, and remember, 1969, you know, it's what, 20 years after Orwell. And he was describing the world we're living in today, or moving more and more in today, in all aspects of society. This is a plan that is projected forward in great detail. Therefore, what's coming is what they plan to come, and that will be upping the ante. It will be increasing the pressure. It will be moving further along the road in all these different areas, everything from GMO and food to additives like that, to the radiation agenda, which is phenomenal. You mentioned iodine a few minutes ago, Alex. Millions and millions and millions of times more radiation, technologically generated, than there was 50 years ago, that we're now kind of living in, like this sea of technological radiation. And given that we have an electromagnetic field, an electromagnetic level, that is going to impact and does impact upon us. And if the electromagnetic level, the electromagnetic field, which some people call the auric field, is disrupted by technological radiation, that plays through into the body as a distortion and a disruption, and we call that mental or emotional or physical dis-ease. So it's progressing, just as we can look back and see how it's progressed. But of course, there are certain points where it progresses very fast because of events that are orchestrated. And of course, the best example of that is 9/11, where the agenda moved forward more in the 10 years after 9/11 than it had in a lot longer time before that. And when Cheney's talking about another 9/11, when Lindsey Graham, when he opens his mouth, just like John McCain, he is speaking the cabal's agenda. He's talking about another 9/11. Over here, we're getting just the same, Alex, with the Prime Minister David Cameron warning about, we've got to increase surveillance because of the terrorists coming back to Britain. We've got this guy today, Liam Fox. Liam Fox is a British politician who's simply an agent of Israel. That's all he is. He's an agent of Israel. And he has come out today and said we need to have more surveillance, etc., more Big Brother, in effect, to meet the challenge from jihadists coming back to Britain. So we are facing this fork in the road between the free thinkers and between those that just accept the agenda and download it, and the number that go that way or that way will decide where we go as a human race, because we've shown when they wanted to move the Syrian invasion, which is what it is, in fact. They wanted to move that along because it was behind the timeline. People opposing that stopped that bombardment and affected the agenda, because people like you and me and all the others that do this, the idea is not to be proved right. It's for what the agenda is not to happen. It's about using that information to head off what's happening. And so it's not just about, watching your own prison being built. Oh, look, oh, yeah, oh, they're putting the roof on now. Look, you see that? I told you they'd do that, didn't I? We need to stop the roof going on. And one of the things that is fundamental to that is that we put down the fault lines of divide and rule. Because what's happening in the Muslim world, in the Middle East, is just classic divide and rule. We have different factions of politics. We have religions played off against each other. We have, scientific belief systems played off against religious belief systems. We need to put that down and say, hold on a second. There's a common theme here, and that's that we're all the target for this unfolding global fascist agenda. And therefore, if we don't come together now and put down our differences and focus on what should unite us all, and that's what is going to affect us all and is affecting us all, then when we're in some concentration camp eventually, if we get that far, then we can have a lovely discussion over who's got the best religion and who's got the best politics and who's got the best whatever. But by then it will be too late. And what they want, if you're targeting a vast population, and there's comparatively few of you, and my goodness, it's so few at the core of in the shadows, in the center, then you have to divide and rule the target population, and we allow it to happen so easily. I mean, look at the Middle East. I mean, we have people at war with each other over some argument centuries ago over who should be the natural or the right replacement for Mohammed. I mean, are we children? Are we mature adults, or are we children? And I'm sorry, in some cases, like what's happening in the Middle East, I apologize to children for using that analogy. But this is happening all over the place, where people are played off against each other. And while we're divided and ruled, we will be one thing. We'll be ruled. It's in our hands. We have the numbers, but only if we come together. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your politics are. I care if you truly care about freedom for everybody. Then we've got a chance.
David, when I raise this point, it's not for us to talk about how great we are. More and more I realize the fact that I've been so successful, you've been so successful, Ron Paul and others have been so successful, because I get the calls, I talk to folks on the street, I even talk to my detractors. They go, yeah, I don't like you, but you woke me up. Why have we been so successful at getting people to realize that the Federal Reserve's not federal? I mean, remember when it was so hard to just get people to realize that private banks control the Bank of England, that private banks ran the Federal Reserve, that there was a plan for a new world order? Now all that's admitted, that there was a plan to put satellite tracker boxes and taxation boxes in all the cars. Now it's here. People now are listening to us and realizing they may not agree with our in-game analysis, but this is going on. But they say, well, what are we going to do anyways? Well, what are we going to do if the rest of it comes into fruition? Because we can see the globalists want to turn off the resources. The globalists want us sick and dead. The globalists believe they're going to merge with machines and become gods, which is what the elite have been told by the spider at the center. Whatever that is, we're living in a science fiction horror movie, but simultaneously, there is the beauty of my children and playing with my dogs and sunsets and friends and honorableness. There's so much more good in the world. It's a very delicate balance I'm trying to get at. Some people ignore the New World Order and say, I'm just going to live a great life. That's how I beat them. But then you allow their evil to grow. But if you just focus on their evil and fight it, you become so pessimistic that then they defeat you because you're focused on them. That's almost like a form of worship. So where is the balance in that? Because I feel in my gut, and I intellectually see, we are entering the most incredible time in human development ever that will decide our fate, not just here, but on a trillion star systems. Literally, this is a great test, and we're about to go into this zone. We've entered the edge of it, the jump point, the flash point, the critical mass point, and I just want to somehow, I just constantly feel like I should be doing better as I enter this key point, because it's just so humbling to be at this point and to see the understanding, my understanding, accelerating. The stuff I won't even get into on air, it's so incredible. You've talked about it, but I keep a lot of my own views private because they're just too incredible. I mean, I just feel sorry for the people that serve the system now. I realize they, as you've said, don't even know what's going on. General Petraeus doesn't even know. I mean, I'm beginning to understand it's so compartmentalized is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's incredibly compartmentalized, and if it was not, it couldn't work, because you have to keep people right up, really close to the spider, really, in ignorance of the full magnitude of what's going on. And, you know, if you concentrate only, and I'm not saying people shouldn't, I do this, we need to know this, but if you concentrate only on the level of banking scams and manipulated wars, you're still just walking around the outer rim of the rabbit hole, really. You've only just started to enter it. It's so deep. And it's understanding the nature of reality is fundamental to understanding what's actually going on. And because the daily experience of people and what they've been taught in the education system and by mainstream science is that, you know, this world that they're living in is real and it's somehow solid, although quantum physics has proved, of course, that it can't be. I mean, you talk about atoms making up a solid world. Atoms had no solidity. How can they? It's an illusion. And once you realize it's illusory, once you realize it's information, decoding information, it's like the wireless internet, and you look around. I've not got the wireless internet here, but if I had, you wouldn't be able to see it. It's an information field within the unseen to the tiny, tiny frequency range, visible light that we can actually see and experience. It's ridiculous how narrow visible light is, our visual world that we think is
We're basically blind.
Yeah, we are in that sense.
I have the headline right here out of National Review. This is what an open border looks like. And you can just walk back and forth however you want. It's totally wide open. They've ordered to stand down. We've documented that. Meanwhile, they now have the Army and National Guard and State Guard at public events all over Texas, at marathons, at kite festivals. You show up and the Army. Now, remember, you pull up in a green field. There isn't even an entrance at Silker Park. But they're there just searching people. And again, I'm not against the troops from Camp Mabry. The media will say he's against troops. That's the mind control. A suicide bomber would just go bomb the checkpoint, and that just happened in Pakistan last week. But the whole issue is that the government's running and financing them with the airlift of evil, everything David was talking about. He's graciously said he'll stay with us 20 minutes into the next hour to get deeper into the rabbit hole, to talk about solutions, to talk about all the pedophile scandals that he first talked about, that, you know, he said BBC is basically run by pedophiles. He worked there. Now it just keeps coming out. There's so many movies like Under the Skin that parallel what David Icke says is at the center of the spider web. And he hasn't seen it yet, but he said, oh, I want to talk about this. So, David, in this segment we've got left, this 5 minutes, talk about why, whether it's the X-Men or the Superman or all these movies now are, like, from our perspective, admitting that there's false flag, Captain America, Winter Soldier. Why are they doing this?
Well, in the nature of reality and the way we interact with reality and the way that thought manifests as what we experience, I have this phrase: what we believe, we perceive, and what we perceive, we experience. If you can program someone to believe something, then that will become their reality. And if you can get people to take it on collectively, that will become the collective reality. It's very much like the stage hypnotist who puts a belief system or a belief in reality, that's what they're doing, into the mind of the stooge on the stage. And then the stooge on the stage experiences that, whether it's someone naked in the audience that isn't, whether there's an elephant in the audience but there isn't, whatever. That downloaded belief manifests as their experienced reality. And, you know, I've been watching this for years now, Alex, you know, way back. And it's virtually a tidal wave in filming terms of movies that are portraying one after the other the world that they want to create, the world that the New World Order, as it's being called, is ultimately leading to. And what it's doing, it's downloading that, on one level, that belief. It's putting it in the subconscious, and that makes it much more likely to collectively manifest because of what I'm talking about, what you believe you perceive, what you perceive you experience. And if we take on this subconscious belief, it doesn't have to be conscious, in this unfolding Orwellian state, then we will collectively manifest that while thinking it's happening externally. And another level of it is it's making it familiar to us. It's making it, if you like, as it literally comes in, they're making it less of a shock.
My friends, Alex Jones here to tell you about some of the most important information concerning you and your family's health. Radiation levels have more than doubled in the last 60 years in the Northern Hemisphere from all of the nuclear testing and radiological accidents. Radioactive contamination is now in most of the food supply. There's only two ways to avoid this. Move south of the equator or properly protect your thyroid with nascent iodine. Looking to protect my family, I've done deep research. Nascent iodine is the purest, cleanest, absolute best form of iodine to protect yourself and your family. It's made right here in the USA, completely non-GMO. I searched out the best quality and now have developed a double-strength form of nascent iodine, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Nascent iodine is on record as one of the only safe ways to detox from fluoride poisoning. Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Secure your super high-quality nascent iodine today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.